Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Brandon Bynes from cheatyticket.com here with our very first Tutorial Tuesday. Today we're going to go over a text effect that I came across a little while ago. It's this flaming text effect, and this is what it's going to look like when we're done. And when I came across this, I just thought that it was really cool looking. I kind of like all the colors that are involved with the text, and I like how the fire comes off of it and all of that good stuff. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and just get right into this tutorial, shall we? So let's go ahead and make our new document. Like usual, I'm going to stick with 1280 by 720. If you want to put in your own resolution, that's completely fine. And this time around, I'm going to make my background contents white. So I'll just hit OK. And I'm going to invert my background by hitting Control I since I'm on a PC, but that's Command I if you're on a Mac. And now that that's black, all we have to do is go ahead and add in our text. So I'll swap to my text tool with the letter T. I'm going to make sure that it's set to white up here and make sure we're on the impact font. Unless you want to use a different font, that's completely up to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in check-its, and I'm going to swap to my move tool and transform it with Control T or Command T if you're on a Mac. And I'm going to click and drag this corner out while holding the Shift key just to make it a size that I like. And that's looking pretty good as it is, so that's a good little starting point right there. But I'm going to go over to the check it text layer over here and give that a right click and go down to rasterize type. That way it's made out of pixels rather than text, or however you want to phrase that. And I'm going to center this up by hitting Control A or Command A if you're on a Mac to go ahead and select the entire canvas. And then I'm going to click these icons right here and here. That way it should center it vertically and horizontally. And now I'll just go ahead and get rid of our selection by hitting Control D or Command D if you are on a Mac computer. And there we go, we are set up to start manipulating this text to make it look like fire. But the thing we're going to have to take care of first is making every single letter its own layer so that we can manipulate it individually. So in order to do that is actually pretty simple. All we're going to have to do is go over here to our rectangular marquee tool, make sure that we don't have any feather or anything like that, we have a normal style and all that good stuff. So just go ahead and click and drag a box around the letter C, and we're going to hit Control Shift J or Command Shift J if you're on a Mac. And all that does is duplicates that little selection that we made around the C and makes it into its own layer over here. As you can see, if we turn this layer off, that's just the C right there. So we'll turn it back on. We'll go ahead and name it C. Oops, I'm going to go ahead and make that a capital C. Then we'll just go back to the original check it layer and we'll make a box around the H. It's okay if you get, some of the box around the C because that's its own layer. And once again, just hit Control Shift J, and that'll make it its own layer, and that'll be H, and just do this same process for the ECKIT. And then when you get to the letter T, that should already be by itself, so you can just rename this original layer T, and you should be set to go. So just to check, we'll do CHECKIT. That's all of them, so we are set to go. So the next thing we need to take care of is to make each of these letters kind of a fiery sort of look. So we're just going to go up to the letter C to start with, and we are going to give it an effect of a drop shadow right there. And all we're going to do with the drop shadow is set the blend mode to normal. We're going to click this box and make the color red. We're going to change the opacity to 85%. We're going to put the distance down to 0. We're going to change the spread so that it's 20%. And we're going to amp up the size to about 12 pixels. And over here you get this nice reddish soft glow just going on around the side of it. If you have a different size canvas and all that, you're just going to have to toy with those until you get something you like. So the next thing we're going to take care of is putting on a color overlay, and we're just going to change up the color here. Let's see, I believe it is CC6600. Yep, that's it right there. It's just this kind of muddy orangish sort of color that we're going to be using. And then next up, we're going to take care of our satin. So we'll leave the blend mode at multiply, but we're going to change up the color to this random number. It's 582900. It's an even darker orangish color, and we'll just hit OK on that. We'll leave the angle at 19 degrees, but we're going to change up the distance by setting it to 25, and then we're going to change the size of it to 105 pixels. And so over here you just get this soft little satin color. If you want, you can change up the distance and size to something that you think would look a little bit nicer, but we'll just stick with that for now. And the last thing we're going to take care of is an inner glow. So we're going to set the blend mode of this to color dodge, and we're going to set the opacity to 100%, and the color we're going to go ahead and change to FFB900. And it's that gold color right there. And you can kind of see that golden edge that we're getting over here, but we're going to size it up to make it a little bit more intense. So we'll change the choke to 20 and the size to 13. And that way you get that little glow going on there. And that should be all there is to that. So we'll just go ahead and hit OK. And we'll just click this little arrow right here to hide all those effects. And we'll copy this layer style by right-clicking on the layer and going down to Copy Layer Style. And then we'll just shift-click down to the letter T there to select all these layers, and then right-click and paste the layer style. And we'll just close up all of these effects so we don't have to look at those. And while all of these are still grouped up together like that, we're going to group them together by hitting Control G since I'm on a PC, but if you're on a Mac that would be Command G. And I'm just going to name this Original because we're going to keep this as an original copy. Instead, we're going to right click this group and we'll duplicate it, and we're just going to we'll just call this Check It as our new group. And then we're going to turn off the original group just so we can keep that as a backup. And then we're going to need to flatten every single one of these. And to do that, we're just going to go to one of these layers here and go down to the Create a New Layer icon and give that a control click. And while still holding control, just select the layer above it and use Control E or Command E to merge those together. And you're just going to use that general concept to flatten every single one of these layers. Okay, now that each one of these should be flattened and you shouldn't see any effects on them or anything like that, we can get to warping them to make them look a little bit more fiery. So to do that, we're just going to start off with the letter C so we can go in order, and we're going to go to Filter, Liquify. And making sure we are on the forward warp tool up here, we're going to make sure that we have a brush size of 30, the brush density of 50, and a brush pressure of 100. If you're using a different size canvas, then change up the brush size as needed. And so we're just going to go over here to the letter C and hold Control or Command and give that a click, and click again so that way we can see what we're doing. And all you're going to do is just click and drag and let go and just kind of just change up like how this looks and just make it a little like distorted, and if you want you can make some like flamey looking things coming off of it and things of that sort. And that's pretty much the only concept that you need to know for this right here. Just make it look however you want. Okay, so that's kind of what I decided to make my C look like. If yours is different, that's completely fine, as long as it's kind of wavy and sort of fiery looking and stuff like that. So when you're done, just hit OK, and that'll automatically, put in all those adjustments that you just made. And all you're going to do is pretty much do that same thing to the H, E, C, K, I, and the T. So I'll go ahead and take care of that. So that is definitely the most time-consuming part of the entire tutorial right there. It's a lot of experimenting with the liquefy tool and seeing if you can make an effect that you like. It's really not something that I can really teach you how to do. It's really just messing with it yourself and seeing what you like and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you got something that you really enjoyed. If not, the fire is going to make it look good anyway. Alright, the next part of this tutorial is to mask off a little bit of the upper part of this text, which is actually pretty simple. All we're going to do is go to the check it group up here. I'm going to minimize this a little bit. And make sure you have your group selected and go down here to the create a layer mask icon and give that a click, and that will give you a mask right there. So we'll just swap over to our brush. And it doesn't matter how big the brush is or anything like that, just make sure that your foreground color over here is set to black. And then I'm going to size up my brush using my right bracket key, and I'm just going to paint over the top like that. And I feel like I got a little too much of it out of there, so I'm going to go ahead and swap back to white by hitting the letter X. And I'm going to bring some of these back by painting in white. And then maybe I'll just go ahead and fine-tune the very tops of these with a more harsh black right there. Just kind of use black to make this a little bit softer in areas. Okay, so that's the general concept behind that. Now let's go ahead and grab our flames that we're going to be using to make this look more fiery. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the fire by shades of gray.jpg. I'm going to put in a link for this in the description, so go ahead and check there before you start asking where you can get this. It's really annoying when people do that. And when you open it up, you're probably going to have this word background here. It's going to have a lock on it. Just give the layer a double click and you're going to get this new layer thing. It doesn't matter what it's named, so just hit OK. And then once that's done, just go over to your channels right here and you see all these channels. So just go to the thumbnail right here, right next to where it says green, and hold Control and you'll see your little hand change or command if you're on a Mac, and give that a click. And you'll see all this little selection stuff going on over here. Just make sure that you're set to your move tool and hover over one of these center flames to where you see the arrow and a little scissors sort of thing, and click and drag it up to the tab of what you're working on and bring it back down, and there you go. You're gonna have some flames right there. So we're just gonna go over to our layers and we're going to name this C because we're going to want these flames to just stay on the letter C. So what you're going to do is click and drag these over to your letter C and bring up your transform tool with the shortcut Control T or Command T for those Mac users out there. And all you're going to do is mess with the size and all that stuff and make it fit so that it looks like it's kind of coming off of the letter that you're using it on. And then check mark it and all that stuff. You think it looks good, so we're ready to start masking off this fire. So with this letter C layer of fire selected and all, or whatever you want to call it, blah blah blah, just go ahead and add another layer mask to it, and then go back to your brush, and all you're going to do is zoom in and start masking off parts that are not on the letter C. And you can have some of the stuff still just kind of trailing off of the letter, but for the most part you want to get rid of a lot of the fire. Okay, so once you've masked off the fire like so, what you're going to want to do is go over here to the layer and duplicate it with Control J or Command J if you're on a Mac. And we're going to change up the blend mode to overlay. And if you want to intensify that, then just duplicate that layer again, so that way you've got some pretty intense looking fire. But that's a little overdone in my opinion, so we'll go back to the original layer and set the opacity down to 50%. And if you zoom in a little bit, that's actually looking really awesome just as it is. So I would say we're done with the letter C. So we'll just go ahead and group these together and name that C, not CV. There we go. And in case you forgot, the shortcut to merge, or not merge, but group layers together is Control G or Command G. And so now we're just going to go back to our move tool and go back to our fire. And once again, we're just going to click and drag this fire up to our tab and back on down. And we're going to use this same idea for the rest of the letters. But keep in mind that you want to change it up between each letters, how you turn and size up or down this this fire. That way it doesn't look like the fire is repeating or anything like that. And it makes it look a little bit more convincing that you're not using the same fire over and over again. If you look closely at this one, you can see that some of these were just, you can tell like right here, and shoot, I masked this too well. I can't find, there we go. So you see right there and right there, that's the same thing right there. So you can kind of tell that I used the same fire over and over again for this if you look closely. And that's just something that you want to kind of avoid, is making it look like it's repeated. So just keep that in mind and have fun with it. Okay, so once you've got everything put together with all of your different fire layers and all of that, you should be set. Mine turned out a lot more intense, I suppose, than my other one. The fire's kind of all over the place, but I think mine turned out pretty well, so I'm hoping yours turned out pretty well too. So thank you for watching. This has been a lot of fun. It's been a great Tutorial Tuesday in my opinion. If you have any questions, you can email me at brandon@chichicheka.com or message me here on YouTube or anything like that. And if you want to keep up to date with our tutorials and, you know, talk to our other fans and stuff like that, you should definitely check out our Facebook fan page. So that's about all there is for today, so I shall see you next time.